What is up, everyone? I'm Jeff London. This is the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast. This is episode 104. It is the second weekend of August, the 11th to be exact. We've had 2 weekends of the blacktail season here in Southeast Alaska. It's been awesome so far. I got the first buck of the year, just mega fork on opening day with Steve. Kind of recapped that last week. And since then, I've been out most days, did some beach hunting with a buddy of mine, and went to a couple spots for a halibut. And you just kind of anchor up, and you sit there for at least an hour and just wait for the halibut to kind of come in. And, man, no halibut showed up. We got into some sharks, man, some dogfish. It was crazy, dozens of them everywhere we went. So not a good halibut showing, but in between alpine trips, it was nice to get on the ocean a little bit. Did some beach hunting, did not see any bucks. It's been pretty hot, and then this last weekend it kind of cooled down a little bit. And I have theories. I don't know if this is actually a tactic or if this is actually a thing, but I like going up mountains in the rain because depending on when it rains, the deer will pop. So it's not necessarily a morning thing. Like, you can have an afternoon. If it's been raining in the morning, it might be 1 or 2 in the afternoon. As soon as the clouds kind of lift and as soon as that rain is done, they're coming out and they're getting water and they're getting food. So I like to hunt those times. The day after a rain or the day of a rain is optimal. If it's going to rain in the morning, just to be out there on the mountain at 1, 2, 3 o'clock within an hour or so of when it stopped. That's been good for me. Again, I have limited experience in the 6 years I've been hunting. That tends to be something that I kind of look for, but because I don't have, blacktail prowess, I'm not an expert at all, but that's something I tend to look for. It almost worked out for me this last weekend. I was up on a mountain and I stayed all stinking day through the heat, and I was waiting until the evening when it was supposed to cool down, cloud up, and I was hoping some deer would come out. And so I was sitting on this one spot. I was on top, just off the top, so I was in the skyline, and I was sitting on this one little grassy corridor. And after about 2 hours, I thought, why am I even sitting here on this grassy corridor? Because it's 60 feet or 60 yards away, shooting at an angle downhill. It's flat where the corridor is, and it's nice and grassy. It's got buckbrush. So if you're on a different peak, you were looking over, you wouldn't be able to see anything that's happening there. But it looked like a perfect spot to post up with my bow, but it was 60 yards away. I only practice up to 50. I have an effective range of 30 is ideal. I probably shouldn't shoot at 40, so I say my cap is 30, but I practice enough to 40. I know I should probably have this figured out before I go out there, but I was sitting on this thing, and I thought, this is 60 yards. What am I going to do? And there was a whole bunch of buckbrush between me and that spot. It's just like stunted alpine trees that it's just an absolute mess to get through. And so I said, well, why am I even sitting here? This is a great spot to find them, but I'm not even in a position to be able to shoot them. So I went around to a different spot, waited there for a little bit, and then finally when the evening happened, the wind shifted a little bit, and the clouds rolled in. And I went back to that spot, and it was funny as I was making my way over to that, I kind of peeked up over this little rise, and there's a stinking buck right in there. I thought, there it is. It's right now. It's happening. So I ducked down, and then I start remembering, man, it's 60 yards from where I got, where I was sitting previously. So what am I going to do now? So I get to that spot, and I'm like, well, then I range it, and he's a little bit further down, so it's 88 yards. This is terrible, man. This is exactly why you hunt with a rifle, right? But it's exhilarating in that moment that I have to be a hunter, right? And I have to make this work, and I have to be very cautious. It's not just 88 yards. It's a simple poke with a rifle. So I work my way down a little bit more through the buckbrush as best as I can on some of the higher spots, and then I peek over, and I'm at I think it was around 60. Again, where I was ranging from previously, it was 60, but this buck was in a different spot. So from my previous spot, it was 88 from where I was. Now it was 60. And then I kind of poked my head up and I was looking for another little way to get closer. And it stood up, kind of looked at me a little bit, took off. It was a nice forky. Nothing like the previous forky I got, which was great. But so I spooked it and it took off. And then I started thinking, I screwed that up. I got a rush. You don't have to make a fast stalk. And I've done that before where, you see a buck from a long way and it's going to take time to get over to it. And I was just in such a rush. I think there was so much just this adrenaline dump that I got that I was trying to get down there as soon as possible before it ran away. Why would it run away, man? So what I should have done is I should have gone all the way around this other spot, got down almost level with it, and I could have walked over. It would have taken 10 more minutes or so. But, if the buck wasn't on me, that's the sort of stuff that you have to do. It wasn't until I poked my head up at the previous spot that I had ranged at 60 that this deer ended up being 88. That's when it was on to me. And then I moved my way down a little bit more, and it busted me at that point. But, okay, you see where it is, and then you get out of sight and you just figure out the best way to get down there and take your time. And patience is such an obvious thing, and it's easy to break it down now. But when you're in that moment, you just get so full of all that excitement that everything goes out the window. There's that, I talked about it with Steve Frith, that Gonzalez book, Deep Survival, where when your brain is in the heightened state of arousal, that you make decisions that are really bad, and you think, what the heck was I even thinking? That's because you weren't thinking correctly and rationally and calmly. When we are sitting on the couch and we're watching the basketball or watching sports on TV, you're like, what an idiot, why did you make that decision? You're like, it's so easy for you, man. Like, you're sitting there and you're having your craft brew and your Tostito chips with homemade dip, and you're rationally looking out, oh, this is exactly what he should have done. Like, come on, man. You don't have people running after you trying to rip your head off. Hunting can be the same way there. So I've made some great stalks and some things where things just kind of calm down and I make the right decision. And other times I've just done some boneheaded things, but it's kind of what makes it fun. It makes it new and exciting and an adventure. And the bow hunting thing is, it's just so much more difficult, so much more complex. So, yeah, there you go. That's a little recap there. It's been funny to watch other stories kind of roll in. When you tell your story about how you blew this buck, or how you made this perfect approach and stalk, or how you're like the best hunter ever. You see it a lot in writing, especially. And this is one thing that I've really tried to get away from, in the podcast game, and then also more so in my writing, is that when I started off, I didn't want to be the type of columnist or the guy writing for magazines that it's just an ego stroke. I made this perfect stalk and I did this, and it's just some cliche image about the time was there and near, and the sky was crisp and blue. And it's just, what's the connecting point, right? What am I trying to say, and whom am I trying to say it to? And so there has to be some sort of, not lesson in it, because I don't think I'm good enough to be able to give lessons, but I want to communicate something that people can kind of latch onto and say, dude, I know what you're talking about. And so if I'm talking about this fork that I screwed up because I wasn't patient, and I just assumed it was going to run away because that's not what I wanted it to do, and so I figured the worst thing that could happen was going to happen soon, I kind of lost track. I hope when I tell that, someone else is thinking about a time that they weren't patient too. Like, yeah, man, I got jacked up. I lost focus on what I was supposed to do here. And that's, I think, the best storytelling. If you read the best writers in the outdoor hunting and fishing game, and the best podcasts, the people who communicate with you, they're not just telling the story about how great they were. And that's some of the reading. It's just really hard to, some of the writing, it's really hard to read, because this is just about this person's ego. And it's just hard to palate. And the same thing with podcasts. People just want to talk about how great they are and here's what they did. You want to hear about the suffering a little bit, right? Not how I overcame all this adversity and I was shown how tough I was. I think there's an audience for that to some degree, but I think also you're going to resonate with a lot more people if you're honest in what's going on there and you connect, right? Who's the audience and what are you trying to say? And when people podcast, when people tell their stories, like what is that connecting point? Like what is this all about? I try to keep that in mind. And it's funny to hear stories of people when they're hunting. We're like I said, 2 weekends in, 11 days into the season. And there's some people I cannot wait to hear how it went down because it's going to be an honest tale of that. And you can just tell this person's just divulging facts rather than how can I tell this story to make me look like a supreme hunter. I got a couple of buddies that are up on the mountains right now. I just can't wait to hear their stories, man. Other people, I don't really care, right? Like I'll listen to the story. It's good, but I just know that it's going to have some of those elements of, I'm glad you're able to listen to me. It's wonderful for you to be able to hear how great I am at hunting. And you just get this sort of ego-feeding just way about the stories. But a great storyteller, the people that I want to listen to, there's just that honesty, there's that human, there's something to connect with. And it doesn't matter if you're a writer, podcaster, or just just guy, right? You're going to tell the story through text or whatever, right? There's something to connect with. And what's the bigger picture here? And I think people who can tie those stories into some sort of bigger picture, not just another notch or another rack on the wall. I think those people are ones that's fun to tell, and it's fun to hear their stories. It's fun to listen to them tell their stories during this time of year because there's so much excitement. You don't wish your life away, of course, but for August alpine Southeast Alaska Sitka blacktail deer, like this is the time. This is that month. August is that magical month, especially the first week and a half, 10 days. And there's kind of maybe middle lull where you have the people who went hard after it are kind of tapering off, and the people who want to start a little bit later once the antlers start to harden up, they're really getting after it. So there's two sessions or two parts to it, and it's just fun to see all that energy and all. Got a cold too. That energy and that excitement. Right? These other people telling their stories about how all this pent-up, I don't know how to say pent-up aggression, but you're excited, and you have every right to be. The whole experience and going out there and people telling you what worked and what didn't. And even people who tell you the theory, and they tell you the theory, and this is exactly why you did what you did, and you might be able to see, oh, dude, that's really, you thought that?
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
And that flawed logic is such a thing that everybody knows, right? This is my plan. This is why I did what I did. And obviously it sounds ridiculous to me right now. And the person you're telling it to, like, oh boy, there it is. But you let them tell the story, and you're like, yep, this is what I thought. This is why I did what I did. I thought that this would be this, and if this happened, then this would happen. But that logic and those theories sometimes totally don't work out. Sometimes it's the wrong thing, but it works. And when that happens, sometimes you create this system or this hunting program or a fishing program that you just do and you do and you do because it's worked out enough to be successful. It might be the furthest from the most efficient or the most successful, but if you don't know any different, you can be happy, which is great. And that's kind of where I live right now. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of different ways to do things a lot more effectively than I do. But, I have a lot to learn. And so once I kind of make these tweaks and adjustments, and you go through failures, and then you learn from those failures and you get better. It's part of it. That is part of it. You just can't get too stressed out if things don't go the way you want them. I can't imagine what it's like for someone who comes up here to do a do-it-yourself hunt, and they've spent so much time, or even money, right? They've spent money, given money to people to help plan their do-it-yourself thing, or whatever it is, and you only have a week, or 10 days, and so you're fighting time and you're fighting the weather, and then it's over. Then the trip is over, and it's so fast, and before you know it, it's you're back to wherever you live. So that's really nice about living here is that, I've already hunted really hot days, I've hunted cloudy days, I've hunted rainy days. And there's still so many more. We still got the majority of August still left, and so alpine season is not even to the midway point yet, which is great. And then there's September, which is kind of a lull, but I want to do a better job of hunting September. I think a lot of energy in August, and then they kind of wait until the rut in October. But I've heard people still going up high in September. Man, there's just deer are exactly where they are. It might not be the best place to go because the vegetation starts to die in the alpine, and then they're not coming to calls really until rut. But they're still out there. You want to do some work and get after it, you can do that. So it's a fun and exciting time for sure. So we'll call that quick episode 104. Got some work to do around here, then heading over to Buddy's house where he got looked like some fresh halibut or some sort of white fish that he was filleting off there. I said, come over, he's going to put the grill on, so going to do that. Going to take some backstrap over there. And I tell you what, that's one of the amazing things about living here in Southeast Alaska is that the accessibility to all that. You have a buddy who goes to the ocean, gets some food, you bring over some venison, and it's legit. It's so great. In the last tank of gas, which lasted me over a week, what you're able to do on a single tank of gas. There are places that you live and you have to drive 2 or 3 tanks of gas round trip for a cool experience. Whereas here in 1 tank of gas, that's been over a week. And in that week, I have been able to hunt 4 different mountains. I've gone south to part of town. You can't drive very far in Ketchikan anyway, but there's so much here, you don't have to drive a long way to go, get in your skiff and then go out somewhere for halibut fishing, or to go to a pull out and then hike up a mountain. You don't have to go very far for that. The adventure is all right here if you're willing to do it. And it's amazing to be able to live in a place like this. And then get together with some buddies who have had some success, and it's great. The quality of life is unbelievable. And it is not surprising then that there are so many people out there who just don't feel like they have that thing, that kind of keeps them refreshed. And I think a lot of people then fall into a thing that to be passionate about that isn't healthy, and a thing that is more miserable than it is joy giving. People who are so tied to a political identity that they get all of their validation from that. And that's different from being passionate about things and movements and things that you want to help improve the country or the way things work. Like there's a difference in being passionate about helping things and just being passionate about your side winning in politics, right? That's the difference between volunteering and being active in doing something and then just complaining about things on Facebook and getting outraged on social media. But you have all these energy units and only a certain amount can be in your work, and there has to be something else that you get to find some sort of fulfillment in. And I think a lot of people fall for something that is nonsense because we don't have that daily, what's my value? What am I here to do? You know, back when we had to just a self-sufficiency type society, like when you lived on the farm, like you had to do your chores, right? Even before that, they talk about Native American cultures where everybody had a job, everybody had a role. I was reading Empire of the Summer Moon and Blood and Thunder and some of these other books about native plains Indians who, so white settlers had been taken hostage by them or been enslaved by them, but they then chose enslavement over going back to the white societies. And that's because there was a purpose, there was a specific role. Right? And so we project these sort of things that it's just, it's sad. It's sad that people have no other way of finding their way or finding something to make them feel valued or important or feel validated than yelling about things they can't really control. There's nothing else in their life that they can really get going. And that's, I don't know what we do about that. I don't know how we provide that. We're living in a time right now where people can be so, they want to go visit Area 51. Like that's a main cause. You're going to storm Area 51? Really? Like that's a, that? I mean, it just, it's, if you don't want to, I'm not saying that you have to hunt. I'm not saying that you have to fish or camp, Rob. But like, that's a, I don't know. And I don't understand certain things. And I also don't understand the desire of many people to get rid of things that are deemed old or outdated or archaic or arcane or toxically masculine. And it's, studies have shown that, you know, you have to get outside and to find that richness and go out into nature, and there's some and making that your thing, you know, escaping, but being with yourself, right? Some people can't be alone. But, you know, with all these studies that, you know, it's good to be outside, it's good to be self-sufficient, it's good to do hard things, and yet we chastise some of the lifestyles of people who are just trying to make that real. And it's people who don't even want the limelight. They just want to quietly do what they want to do. But that lifestyle is deemed something by people who don't know what that lifestyle is, and that becomes their mission, to stop people from doing this and not understand the complexity of it. You are just doing something that I approve of or not. And if you're not doing something I approve of, then you need to stop. There you go. Make sure you check out the mediocrealaskan.com for other content, and then make sure you buy if you do not subscribe to the Alaska magazine. Make sure you check out the article I have in there this coming month, September, about Bodden Street Brewing here in Ketchikan. And we'll talk to you next time.